Okay, so here we have, again, parallel lines, and we know these are parallel lines because we have our little flags on our lines, so they're parallel. And we are also cut by a transversal. Here's our transversal. All right, so now what we are given also is expressions. So I think for safe saying, we could call this one angle 1, and we're going to call this guy angle 4. Those are the missing numbers, and it'll just help with us to be able to identify them and be able to call them something by name. So looking at these two lines, we have the transversal is crossing one set of our parallel lines here at, a nice little degree, but we should recognize that angle 1 and angle 4 are vertical angles to each other. And by definition, vertical angles are, of course, they have a common vertex, and they are forming two lines. Or we could also reverse that and say, well, two lines are intersecting to form vertical angles. By definition also, vertical angles are congruent. So that means that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4, which means that their measurements are equal. So if that's the case, which we'll write that out, measures are equal. So we can set these two equal to each other. So negative x plus 70 is equal to negative 4x plus 88. All right, so let's go ahead and solve for x. And I, again, like my x's to be positive, so I'm going to move the negative 4x over to the left. And to save some space, we'll go ahead and subtract 70. And now we have 3x equal to 18. Divide by 3, and we get that x is equal to 6. All right, so now, again, we need to be very careful because we don't know if that is what they're going to ask us for our question. Okay, so they could be asking us randomly for the value of angle 7 or something to that nature. So be very careful, read your question very carefully before you hit enter. So let's go ahead and plug this in. So we have here, we have for angle 1, let me write down here, is negative x plus 70, so negative 6 plus 70. So angle 1 is going to be equal to 64. So this angle here is 64 degrees. And we can double check that with our negative 4x plus 88. And we would get a negative 24. So we get 64. All right, so we have those two angles. Now we are able to apply all of our parallel line properties. Remember, if two lines are parallel and cut by a transversal, that we have special relationships with our angles. So we've already determined these two angles that were given to us were vertical to one another. But we now can also look at our other properties as well. So let me erase some of our space here, just so we have room to write. Okay, so angle 1 to angle 2 are a linear pair, which means that they are supplementary. And remember, for a linear pair, they are two angles that have an adjacent side, and of course our adjacent side is part of our transversal. So they are supplementary because they form a line. That's our key there, line, L-I-N-E. That should be a hint. So we already know that angle 1 is 64. So to find angle 2, we would take 180 and subtract the 64, which is 116 degrees. Okay, this is 116. So now we can start applying all of our other properties to fill in all the gaps. Okay, so we, again, angle 2 and angle 3 are vertical, and vertical angles are equal. So angle 3 is also equal to 116 degrees. We can also say that angle 1 and angle 8 are alternate exterior. So that also means that they are equal. So angle 8 is also equal to 64 degrees. We could say that angle 4 and angle 5 are alternate interior angles. So again, that's from 4 to 5. And so he's also 64 degrees. And please note that, like on these angles that are 64 degrees, I only have one arch that's going across our angles. Some of them are a little messy, but it's a single arch. And then on our 116, I have 2. Okay, and that's because they are not the same measurements. They're different. 64 has one measurement, 116 is a different measurement. So that's just a notation on how we write things on our angles. All right, so let's go ahead and fill in the rest. We have then also this angle here at 3. All right, messy. All right, that's 2 arches. Our angle 3 and angle 6 are also alternate interior angles. And so that means that 3 and 6 are equal to each other. So angle 6 is going to be equal to 116 degrees. And we also could say that angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding, which again means that they are congruent. So angle 7 is also going to be 116. And keep in mind, we do still have our consecutive angles and things of that nature as well. And just don't forget that the consecutive angles would be, for instance, these two here, 3 and 5, are consecutive. And you should recognize that they are also supplementary, which means they equal 180 when you add them together. Okay?